created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like disease states, a mortality algorithm. And
I think you will have a whole levels of robotics, the humanoid robots or non-humanoid robots, whatever the case is.
But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx. Low code, no code, business intelligence stuff, data science, machine learning, things like that.
Audio, the text, and then everything's big metaverse bug. Everybody knows the metaverse.
Another week of AI.
All right. Welcome to AyAyAyAI podcast. If this is your first time listening in, you probably are wondering what AyAyAyAI stands for. It stands for our emotions that we display when we talk about artificial intelligence. Every language has some sort of AyAyAI, right? Either you screwed up, or you're very excited, or you're very sad, or you're just not understanding something, right? So usually we start the podcast with some enthusiasm. Maybe at the end of the podcast, we either feel more enthusiastic or we just feel the opposite, kind of drained by the challenges of artificial intelligence. And that's what we talk about here, is artificial intelligence and all the challenges that comes with it. Every discussions we have, we try to bring in a perspective from somebody who's actually going through that journey of running a business, operating daily workflow, and trying to figure out how do we maximize this artificial intelligence usage, because the transformation is happening all around us. But now, how do we transform our business, transform our personal lives, transform our community, transform the whole globe, if that's the case? So today, I have the pleasure of having Sohail here. And he might not say everything about himself, so I just have to kind of say it for him, because he will definitely do an introduction, but he's a humble guy. He has a terrific background, experience-wise, success-wise, and just having that business experience that we really need to have a good understanding of. Because once we understand the business needs and how that business needs is executed and the outcome of it is success, we all can learn from that. What do we call it? When you're mimicking somebody, it's a form of flattery, right? So this is something that I'm really am proud to have Sohail in this discussion for, because I want to learn. And I want to learn it with everybody that's listening in, right? Listen in and try to mimic that process and methodology, because we know IT, but we don't know AI. And we cannot confuse IT and AI all in one, even though they're part of the same umbrella. So Sohail, I would love to ask you for your introduction. If you miss any, I will have to fill it in for you, because you might try to say, "Oh, no, not a big deal." So do your intro as deep as you can go.
This is a remarkable work that you're doing. Actually, I've been following you, and AI. This is something I think which gives us a hope that AI and the community and the paths and the positivity could all be combined together. So, but thank you for having me, Asif. My name is Sohail Mohammad. I've been a healthcare tech person for over 25 years, multiple ventures. Currently, I am running Sobah Systems, which is a healthcare technology company, particularly focused on a particular healthcare segment called home health and hospice. And I'll give you a reason why we decided to go into this area and why this area is a remarkable area. But it's been 6 years now we are in this business. But prior to that, I have had a pleasure of working on different opportunities and contribute in different areas, including, I know that you are a veteran, so including about 23 years ago, working for a major project for veteran affairs, VA, where we took the software and we were trying to build it for an independent hospital. And so that was a remarkable journey. I was much younger at that time. and still learning. But essentially, my entrepreneurial journey started about 15 years ago, when we had an opportunity to become one of the pioneering group in something called value-based healthcare, which is, in simple words, so if you are sick, and the more your providers and the more system makes money, is a regular healthcare. But conceptually, the healthier you are, and imagine your doctor makes more money, is what supposedly is a value-based path, where they don't not just look at one particular aspect of your healthcare, but they try to look at holistic aspect of your healthcare. So when it started, um, I was running a large company, about 1,500 employees, and when this opportunity came in, I left that opportunity. I hired one developer. We had only 1 year budget, and I started when I was 36 years of age. So now it became a good success. The organization that used what we built became top 5 in the country, and then once we showed consistent results, CMS noticed. We became one of the major voices in industry in the US, where we would share with people what are the techniques, what are the strategies, how do you marry technology in a manner which reduces the work and which actually makes simplicity in actions, and which can sort of give confidence to the people that it will result in a financial gain, not become another cost center. So that was basically like what 20% would make 80% impact. So if you could make people adopt that, they will go for it. So then we spun that technology into a company, and I became the CEO of the company, and we were able to take it to almost all states in the US. Some of the major payers became the customers. We had over 100 value-based organizations as the customers, and I, as a CEO, had an opportunity to look at this analytical data, from that angle, where I could see what type of organization contribute in the healthcare delivery. When the patient goes to hospital, what happens? How much is the cost? If patient goes from hospital to home health, or from rehab, or any other type of organization, what happens? And what we figured out was that if a patient was eligible for home health, or if a patient was the candidate for hospice, and somebody made a referral, our discovery was that almost every single time, year long and following years, the patient healthcare outcome will be far better than the average patient, and the cost will be at least 25 to 30% down. So that means if my mom gets sick, she gets home health, and if they do a good decent job, which we consistently saw they do, then my mom's hospitalization will be limited, ER visit will be limited, other things will be more managed, and then she will get that more immersive understanding of her own healthcare. She gets support for a couple of months. So that was really, really a good discovery. And I recall we built a system at the point of care where if a physician was seeing a patient, it would just tell them at the point of care what 3 actions you need to take that will guarantee healthcare outcome and financial gain for you. And almost every time, one of those would be, if the patient was eligible for home health, please make a referral now. So when I exited the company, that's where the natural spot was working with home health and hospices, because they are drowning under administrative load and there are so many opportunities to assist them. And that's where we started. And today we have about 7% of the US market. In fact, in the first 5 to 6 years, 4 years, we spent time in understanding the problem. Really truly learning the problem. AI became one of the key tools that actually helped us move fast with a certain velocity. And since this was bootstrap, certainly AI became an opportunity that we thought, if wisely used and if used in a manner where we could utilize all of our old school knowledge in a systematic manner, it could be something really impactful. So we launched at Sobah Systems. Our product is called 1 Degree, and we essentially launched the product last year. And within 12 months, we have 7% of the US market. So I'll talk more about that, but that's what my background is. And, I hope I would be helpful to your audience today.
Yeah, I think, that's the part that really brings you into the market segment and say, like, we need Sohail and we need to multiply Sohail more, right? We need to do more of what Sohail is doing because you're looking at the full ecosystem and you are looking at that challenge to say, like, how to be proactive rather than reactive, right? Because if we're doing proactive steps, we're understanding the operational side of things, the demand signal delivery, the demand signal. We always have demand signal coming. The signals are coming from everywhere. But now, how do we look at it from an operational perspective? So, I think that's one of the conversations that we want to have with you is that the client side, the patient care is total focus. Like everybody can get behind that. But now, if you step back a little bit, look at the full ecosystem, now you see the operational side of it. Okay. What is the actual demand signal that we have to address? And like you said, that 80%, 20%, how do we address that? So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. The operational side, client side, like what's that full supply chain? What does the bill of material looks like for that?
So I'll focus on the current segment we operate. So it comes from real, true experiences, and it comes from anecdotes and stories we try to create every day. In simple words, if a patient is discharged from hospital or if the patient mobility is limited, that patient could actually get healthcare at home. And when I say healthcare, in more specific manners, somebody could come, somebody could assess the patient in detail, and they could actually propose different type of therapies and help. For example, the patient may receive physiotherapy, occupational therapy. The patient may need help with medication. The patient may need all of the above and several other things, including clinical and non-clinical. Somebody may look at the fridge and see if patient has adequate supply of protein, for example, at this age, or somebody is managing some specialty visits for the patient. So this is a holistic care plan that needs to be formed for the next 30 to 60 days or beyond if patient needs it. And now these organizations, they, from an operations perspective, it sounds very simple, but let me just walk you through the complexity. So let's say I live in a certain area in Texas. I'm from Flower Mound, Texas. So if I need help in Flower Mound and the nurse needs to come, they need to be within the vicinity. Their office and branch need to be within the vicinity. And if you are in Georgia, in Atlanta, in a certain zip code, and if you need help there, the branch needs to be there. So these organizations need to have physical footprint across zip codes. So that's number one, because they have to go. The outreach need to be from these organizations to the patient homes. Now, when I say this, then you realize that the cost structure and the cost model is exponentially different and more complex. Now, second complexity, that the insurances, payers play a key role in the US healthcare. Now, it's possible that the contract that my organization, I'm a home health organization in Flower Mound, my contract with the same payer could be different than the same payer operating in Georgia. So it's possible that a patient both from the same payer may get a referral, but one you may be able to accept and other you may not be able to accept. So the decision about patient acceptance are very localized. That's another form of complexity. So that means you need to have the decision making distributed across so many different branches, and every new branch adds a new level of complexity and another dimension of complexity. and variation. And since our healthcare system, is an extremely complex, so these things need to be navigated at that point. And then data entry is a beast. If you spend most of your time entering basic and doing clerical work rather than patient care or reach out to the patient, then you need to have a lot of extra resources who just do that. So just to summarize, these organizations have a lot of cost when it comes to back office operations, just administration and support. They have clinical phase, but they have so much non-clinical going on behind the scenes so that clinical phase could be operationalized. And that's where we focused. We thought that there is a tremendous opportunity in assisting these organizations. If we can bring their costs down by 20-30%, and if we can up their revenue by another 5 to 10% at the same time, just by speed of execution and the quality of execution, that's pretty much their need to really make a whole new different kind of impact in the healthcare that they currently have been making. So our focus operationally has been so far in the areas which are administrative, back-end, and if we believe if we assist organization in automation, in intelligent decision making, in simplifying their workflows, they would, any bandwidth that financial or operational that they will be able to get, they could actually put on the patient side, in the interacting side and the care side. And I think that's the right model where we can assist them.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about, how to get to the next one, because the next question I have for you is the hype versus the reality, right? So hype works like in my head like this, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe the reality is different. But the hype works in like three separate ways. One is that we can do this, like what exactly all the problems you just said. Hype will tell you that we can fix that. Yeah, I can fix that, right? Easy statement. And the other part will say like, well, based on ITs that we've had for the last 30, 50 years, slow down, not everything can be AI, right? Let's put that human experience to a point where now you have more human involvement than less, right? The other spectrum of hype, right? Which is that now we have to juggle between what is real and what's a hype and what actually works on the ground, right? Because human imagination, the business ideas that you can get because of AI's availability, doesn't necessarily consider all the human aspects of it, right? Let's say, for example, the one that it really stuck out is the geographical information, right? The ground truth, the truth that, this zip code, this few inches of acres, right? How it works here, it's not going to work just outside of this few acres, right? Forget the zip code. When you put a hardware or a device into places, all of a sudden the demo goes berserk, and going back to the hype and demo are literally taking over everybody's conversation. Any problems that they hear, they kind of tie it back to what they heard on a demo or a hype, right? Because media is full of hype right now. Media has so much demo. And every time you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, go back to that demo and let's start working off of that demo. Right? Because if they have done it, we can replicate and copy it because AI lets us, copy and paste it. So many hype process that goes into it. And eventually they come to realize day 3 or day 5 or day 300 that, yeah, I think physically these things are not going to work out probably, right? I'm not saying that because, other people do it. It's because I've been through it, right? I've been in this space for 12 years. I've been through like, oh, yeah, I can fix that. Well, I have no ground information. I have some reality that I think exists. Maybe it's far from the hype because of my, experience with cybersecurity, experience with data processing, experience with putting data into the motion, right? I'm thinking that these are all possible. But when it hits the ground, that's when everything falls apart, right? It either is made out of glass, it's either a vaporware, or it's an actual something that will hold up and people will actually use it. So, yeah, we were talking about how in demo, everything sounds good, but when it comes to the daily use, right, wear and tear, that ability to say data entry point that you mentioned, I think those are all points that really people need to think through ahead of time, not just jump into it, right? So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that demo versus the daily use.
That's a great point, and I totally agree with your direction of thought and experience, because it's very consistent. Consistently, I've also discovered that the hype is overhyped.
That's how marketing works.
Yeah, and it's really, if I have to give you some scale, for example, if the reality is sitting at 10, the hype is at 99.
Right.
So it's now let me give you a more specific answer, and I'll give you answer from three angles. Angle number one: just as an entrepreneur, if you have an organization or a company and you intend of doing something, okay, let me just share with you what happens under the hood and what are the challenges regarding AI under the hood before even you build something, or before you even try to get into production or productionalize it. Anything AI in healthcare, most of the insurances will reject you, won't even give you insurance. Okay, and essentially, if you don't have insurance, no, you can't go to the market. Nobody's going to sign. This is a highly regulated industry. The risk is too humongous for anyone who owns the data, patient data. So now, if you have a track record, perhaps insurance companies will give you some starting point. But if you don't, it's very complicated. So number one. Number two, this is one thing, if you are folks like us who have been doing it for decades, you would understand that this is not about a new product or a new feature that you're launching. It is all about first crossing the compliance gate. You need to understand what compliance is. And in the world of AI and with so many moving parts, the compliance is exponentially more complex today. So if you don't know that on day one, when you are trying to build a product, in a year, you may have to redo everything, and you will fail. There is absolutely no two opinion on that. The failure rate is 99%, perhaps. I'm just throwing a number. The point I'm trying to make is it's extremely high. Entrepreneurship, mostly failures, come in your way. But when you're talking about marrying healthcare product or service and AI, it's even greater. So that's one angle that most of the people are not aware of. Second is when you build a product. Let's say you built a product. Let's say that you start hosting data which is highly regulated. Mm-hmm. Do you understand how to build an architecture? Do you understand how to design it so that if there is a risk, how do you limit the risk from day one? And these are the decisions that you can't change later without a substantial cost. So AI could help us think through it. That's actually a really good opportunity. But when it comes to the execution and understanding, that's tribal knowledge. It comes from experience. And you must reach out to the people who understand it. You must go into the sessions like, AyAyAI to understand, what the realities are, and reach out to the people who are doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah. This tribal knowledge is literally something that I'm going to have to borrow from you and start using it because it is tribal knowledge. This tribal knowledge may be accessible by ChatGPT, right? But if you are following the footstep of all the successful deployment prior to your, about to be deployed product, you have to understand what the difficulty was for these other products, right? That's the tribal knowledge, because you can ask ChatGPT about difficulties of a deployed product. A tribal knowledge will tell you that your journey starts after you deploy, because whatever you think is the journey while you're developing, it's nothing compared to what happens once you deploy it, because that's when the aircraft is in the air and is flying and steels and aluminums and all the wheels are falling off, right? You have to have this tribal knowledge, and the tribal knowledge is part of that methodology of you have to have people, you have to have a process, and you have technology. Who are those people that you're engaging with? They have to be tribal. Some of them have to be tribal knowledge. You cannot say, I have people that are really good with the process of ChatGPT and they can deliver technology. No, the people side of things are really complicated, far more than technology itself, if I may say so. Because you're not delivering a technology to another technology. You're delivering the technology to people. So who are those people that you're engaging with, delivering to, and demonstrating these products to? It's a whole nother set of people skills that you need in order to be, like you said, successful. Make that 1% of deployment that becomes success. There's so many ways to capture it, but the tribal knowledge hit it right on the head, right? It's the tribal knowledge actually, because you cannot ask ChatGPT about that. You cannot ask Claude about that. You cannot ask Claude like, tell me about failures that Google had for the last 10 years, because that's Google's IP. Google doesn't care to share that information. But that's the reality of Google, actually. Google has, I believe, more than 300 products that they're trying to deploy, and I can guarantee you won't name more than 10, 15 of them. What happened to the rest of them? They did not get out to the public. The public didn't even see them. Those products never saw daylight. And that's part of our unknown, right? That's that unknown that we have to accept the fact that there is a lot of unknown unknowns. There are some known unknowns. I say get friendly with your known unknowns, because that's how you get really comfortable with the unknown unknowns. Sometimes you have to make fun of your known knowns, right? Because that's what we are really comfortable with. So when you have those known knowns, which is that you know what you know, but when you have those known unknowns, you have to kind of say I really have to get comfortable with that, because there's nothing about this AI space that makes me comfortable at all. I can only rely on my people, my process, and my technology that I'm hoping to deliver, right? Those are only comforts that I have. Everything else is unknown. It's a lot of confidence, right? But building that tribe of people, I think, is the biggest driver here. So, you hit on that vendor part of it really well, because you're a vendor now, right? You're delivering technology to a company, whoever that is, big insurance company, small insurance company, small whoever that is, that you're delivering as a vendor. So let's dive into that. I think we can get a lot of decision mechanism out of it, right? Because you're developing AI product, you're delivering AI product, you're going to use AI product. Maybe you'll purchase AI product. We don't know who you are that's listening, but your AI decision has to be different than your previous decisions from 10 years ago, right? Because now we're talking about vendors. These vendors are either approaching you or you are the vendor, right? Let's talk about that AI decisions and some of the things that you're hitting on earlier about the insurance companies. I think those are very critical points that we need to explore a little bit more on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the term that we both of us use, tribal knowledge, the definition in our world is that you deal with certain systems that our clients use. There are certain set of processes that are required through regulations. And every organization have their own culture and approach to implementing those. None of that ever lands in ChatGPT, like you so well articulated. And folks like us who spent over 25, 26 years in the space, we needed 4 years to understand that tribal knowledge. Because there is no shortcut to that. You have to live a life like the people that you are building a solution for. You have to truly appreciate these home health and hospices going through what they go through every day. And you need to appreciate the depth of the complexity of the problem, define a problem statement before you could even articulate a solution. So that's what we have learned. And from a vendor perspective, once you understand the problem and once you could systematically generalize and standardize it, then you move very fast. Like you were patient for years, but once we build something, everybody wants it, just because we truly made sacrifices, and we worked very hard, and we burned midnight oil to reach at a certain level. And we knew there is no shortcut. We were humble enough to understand that this problem is bigger than any of us. So from that perspective, AI, um, we see AI as just one more tool in the repository. We don't build product in AI, we build AI in the product. And they are very targeted use cases where we have to make sure there is certain level of accuracy that AI has. There is certain level of completeness that we could actually bring to the market in the solution. So, for example, if we have 20 features, maybe 5 of them are very, very targeted AI features. The rest are not. And when you combine and look at the total value now, they are no more than 30 features. They are perhaps more powerful just because those certain features that you are able to bring really pivots the equation in a favorable direction to these organizations, because smarter and quicker decisions are made. Number one. Number two, we like when 25 years ago, we used to call it analytics, and several years ago we used to call it machine learning. Then we used to call it, something else, automation. Today we call it AI. In end of the day, it's just not something different. What it is today, if I may be extremely specific, what AI today it gives us that we didn't have access to in the past is looking at unstructured data, figuring out stuff which is all over and may not make sense easily. The tool that we have helps us make sense of those things. That is, in the problem statement, we found to be most effective, that AI today is helping us with and getting better at it every day. Now, just to give you an example, would you believe that the industry that we operate in, still anywhere from 30 to 50% referrals come through faxes? This is 2026. So on one hand, we are talking about AI. On the other hand, we are talking about such a big volume coming through faxes. What will you do about faxes and stuff? Now you marry the two, suddenly there's an opportunity that we didn't have in the past. So our use cases are basically, once we figured out the scattered information, unstructured information, make sense out of that, now suddenly we have an opportunity to make smarter decisions, quicker, important decisions, and train it so that it could actually help us think through and present solutions to the people who actually could make the decision. So instead of making a decision, how about you bring all pieces of the decision in front of the human decision maker that otherwise would have to go to 10 places, spend an hour and figure out how to make a decision. How about I'll bring everything, then propose a decision and show raw data in a structured manner. It will take maybe a couple of minutes for a human to make a decision. So that's how we have been operating, and we found it to be very effective. And also, if we can take an organization which is currently like in basement level 6, that's so much below the ground, and they don't get level playing field, and we can bring them to level minus level 2, still they are 4 level up, and if we can bring them to the ground level, they appreciate it. So what we do is we work with them, we live their world, we live their pains, and then we just take them in steps, in guaranteed sort of, in a systematic steps together, where our products and our services and the way they're brilliantly used is, it's a journey. And we think that's how we need to think about AI as vendor and as solution.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the right wording here, right? But the one word that I think I have most confidence in is the business intelligence, right? I'm biased towards it, but it's business intelligence. Literally, if anybody wants to get comfortable with AI, they just have to revisit where AI has been. This AI is not about luxury. It's not about somebody just saying, I invented it and you should use it. No, there's a whole gang of people that don't even exist anymore. It's been around for hundreds of years. they don't even know where AI is today because they died a long time back, right? There's few that you see in AI space. It's like, these guys has been around for a very long time. How come they don't know? They know so much about AI. Well, they invented it back in 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? So AI has this evolution, and this evolution is really the key into understanding where the AI will be in the future. Further, you can look back in the past, more you can understand the future. And where it's been, to me, is all about business intelligence. Because the business intelligence world for the last 12 years has said the same statement over and over. Amount of data that we had 6 months ago, we have doubled that data 6 months later. So when you said unstructured data, and AI can look into that, that tells you one-on-one, this is what you need to know. AI is not a luxury. It's a necessity that we couldn't do without. And we've been developing these AI tools not because, they said like, that'd be cool. No, it was because we couldn't keep doing what we've been doing in this IT ops, DevOps, data ops, and all these other ops, even ML ops, right? We just couldn't hack it because the ML ops itself has a specific lane that it can drive in. IT ops was driving in the same way, right? You talk about DevOps, data ops, all these things. We're kind of looking at it like there's exit for each of these things, right? But you really have to have a process that is data driven, a process that was leaning already into the business intelligence, right? You cannot say I'm going to have a process that just dumps everything from last 40 years. You start from last 40 years. I'm sorry. Right? Because otherwise you're not going to get it right because your data pipeline is not going to fit because it doesn't exist anywhere. So when you're trying to build a product and deploy that product into a different pipeline, now everyone's going to look at your data pipeline is just not our needs at all. We're not trying to re-innovate. We're just trying to get by with what we have. And if we have it, we're going to use it. If we don't have it, sorry, you have to go somewhere else, right? Your data pipeline is just not going to fit in our pipelines that we've developed for 4 years, 40 years, however long that they've been developing this pipeline for, right? So, like the vendor part that you mentioned, it's crucial. And then the business intelligence really takes us to that conversation about like, hey, if we had BI for so long, now that we have AI, where do we go next? CI, the cognitive intelligence, A and B and C, right? The cognitive intelligence is what all the conversations are heading towards. If you hear the word singularity, if you hear the AGI, ASI, all these things are literally talking about the fact that now you might have to outsource your decisions to a DSS, a decision support system, or a decision central system, right? So whatever that case of decision is, we really have to start pivoting towards that because AI is already in all news. Too many people knows about it, right? Like, what do you do next? Well, you get into the physical AI. You get into that robotics that have joints, that has those motors that mimics the human motor cortex, right? Mimics that, AI can do a lot of these identifying, labeling, and making decisions. But what do you do with that decision? That decision doesn't sit stall without, ever being executed. So in order to execute that, you need motor cortex. You need that ability to have elbows and, I would say neck. That's one of the most important part of robotics, the humanoids. So you have all these things that are moving so rapidly. So not only are you delivering, but you're also positioning yourself because you know the past, you know the difficulty of what it was like with BI, what is it going to be with AI, and then what do you have with CI? How does that fit into the 5-year narrative of what the future lies? So the cognitive intelligence piece, I can go on and on about that because that's what captures human imagination. If you have a brain between your 2 ears, you can imagine what a cognitive intelligence will do versus these AIs that are sort of like text-based, image-based, or code-based, right? All of a sudden, confusion disappeared. Like, wait a second, cognitive intelligence, that's what they've been shown in the movie this whole time. That's not AI, that's artificial. This is the cognitive stuff that we need and we've been seeing on the movies and TV shows. So I am like, very excited right now, as you can tell. But that's the kind of information that we need to hear from somebody who has such a, breadth of expertise like you do. And I would be missed if I didn't ask this question, right? So that's my next question to you is that, how are you in your company using AI? Because of course you are in a new product, as I'm hearing, and you also have a new process, which I bet is data based. And from all your experience that you have, you're developing something really cool. So yeah, tell us more about what's going on with the product and the AI that you're working with.
So certainly, if we are trying to bring AI solutions to the market, then you got to start at home to make sure that how do you use yourself and how could it benefit you. And oh boy, that has been a discovery. That's where some of the people like me who have been there for decades. That's where sometimes we are advantaged and sometimes we are disadvantaged. We are advantaged because our when we see AI helping our engineering and our product development and our velocity and other things, somebody like me could truly appreciate, because we have seen all of the previous evolution of how engineering works. But at the same time, when I see youngsters, more native AI engineers, they are a whole new different level. Um, I wish I could think like them. So one the key discovery is that the younger talent, the more native AI talent, is able to push horizons far beyond that we could at a younger age, or even now sometimes. So you what we have discovered is you need to have a proportion of people with a good AI background, good practitioners within the team, but a certain proportion of senior people. um, you could actually keep it thinner now than in the past, and you could have a much bigger uh, pool of people in your team who are relatively somewhere between 4 to 5, 6 years of experience. So that's one thing we have learned. And then our tools, transitioning the team to AI agentic tools, transitioning the team to AI supported engineering is something which sounds so simple, which sounds so intuitive that if you are the guys who are building it, you'll get it. But in reality, it's far more complex. I'll give you an example. A few months back, we got into a strategic partnership with Microsoft, and they actually have made a lot of resources available to us. They're architects, and even today we had a meeting with them, fortnightly meeting, and we have several people helping our team look into it and champion hell, and we have in-house champion, but yet the velocity of change is slow, because people who feel they are owners of the delivery, they just want to make sure that everything is good. So it's hard to change the habit. So that's something I discovered. But if leadership and engineering team remains consistent and they let people try different things, and then they could actually have more like R&D teams who could deliver faster and then share their experiences. We think that it gives a whole new different level of scalability to the team. So today, for example, we have several, like we have with every engineer there are three AI agents supporting. So it is remarkable. It helps us keep our unit cost and our velocity to deliver solution much faster, and at the same time it adds new kind of complexity. For example, we previously preferred specialist. Now we actually learned that you got to go with more generalist with strong understanding of how to use AI. So that's a complete pivot from the past.
Yeah.
Similarly, some of the functions like project management, like testing, like others would benefit a lot more from usage of AI, and you could actually make them scalable. So short answer is that when it comes to engineering practices and AI, I'm very excited. I'm very excited that we have a lot more opportunities, especially organizations that are funding their own lives, entrepreneur lives, and they're not looking for outside funding and other things, and they're independent. The speed of execution the tribalness that you develop in terms of your insight, you could actually grab it quick, and you could actually do something crazy that may even fail, but you still would like to do that. So all of that flexibility coupled with the ability to deliver things at relatively less cost and a future where you would be able to do these things much better is very, very exciting for me.
Well, I was making a mental checklist of things that you said, and I said we need to give it to a non-technical individual who will lead an AI team, possibly a bunch of agents and a bunch of generalists who's going to run those agents on behalf of a non-technical leader. So we have to give them a checklist to say, like, every day you have to review this thing and say, like, how are my agents doing and what are my generalists doing, right? Because that's my key word here. It is generalist, because the specialists are now the agents, right? Agents, the mixture of expertise that you will get from those agents. I use this as an example because some people think like, oh, agents and just the way we do business for the last 5 years. No, think of agents as a agent that can check the usage of electricity of functions that you're providing, because once you start scaling, you might see the dollar coming in, but with the scaling part, you might see your electricity usage going up too, right? So yeah, you can compute token right then and there, but did you check your electricity for next 30 days? Because the bills are not due next 30 days, right? So you have these agents that you can develop, but these agents are going to be so specialist. One agent's just looking at the other agent and saying like, no, don't run that, because electricity is going to go through the roof if you run that wrong. So let's double check. Let's understand what the generalist will want out of this. Let's go ask that question, because the agents do ask a lot of questions. It's just that they're so specialist, they don't even know what questions they're supposed to ask based on the stack, right? Just to give you a quick example, like, non-technical folks are not really thinking about, under the application, there's a model. Under the model, there's chips, and under the chips, the power. Where does the non-technical leaders are asking questions about? All application layer. And if they go a little bit deeper, they go into the model, they completely avoid the questions on the chips level, right? But those are important. But not that you have to learn everything about chips, because you can assign an agent to look at the behavior of the chips and say, I pay for those chips. How come we don't use it to 100% utility? How come it's only used 60%, 40% of the time? Why are we paying for these things that we don't even use? So I think the future looks far different for non-technical leaders, because they're going to use agents, and they're going to use tons of agents and lots of generalists. So
add something here.
maybe we can get that non-technical list off of your hands sooner than later, and now pass it on to the leaders around the country.
If I may just add something here, which is very funny, Asif. So our experience, like we have engineers, and we are bringing AI agents to make them complete teams. But in the market, our experience has been completely opposite. That's actually a very funny revelation that we had. So we have our clients, human teams. We bring in AI-assisted technology to assist them. And then we discovered that you have to bring human in the loop. We have to bring human in the loop as a managed service to really give them that completeness that otherwise our products just can't give, because we are dealing with healthcare, which is complete. Everything is isolated. Everything is a data island, and everyone fights to their teeth to make sure that they don't have to share anything. So it's very funny that, you bring AI, but then you bring human to assist the AI.
Yeah, right.
But the solution, that this comprehensiveness that it creates for our customers, where they have people and they have technology working in the best harmonial manner, in a manner where humans are most effective, they play their part, and then technology plays its part. And if you could connect the dots through humans and technology in a certain strategic manner, when you have deep understanding of their workflows, it's remarkable. I cannot tell you that the impact it is creating on the ground as a managed services AI-based company.
Well, you're giving lots of hopes to a lot of people at this point, I'll tell you that, because if they haven't gotten started with AI, this is the point. You got to get started like it was yesterday, right? Tomorrow's going to be another day, another set of AI. AI is changing continuously. So if you've been kind of standing on the edge, wondering about what to do, this is your day one. Start here. Because it's not going to stop changing. It's going to change continuously, and whatever the changes are, you just got to get used to it, get comfortable with it. So with that note, I want to end the conversation here because you have given us your precious 1 hour, a time away from your family. You're out on the West Coast, enjoying the time. So just really want to thank you for making the time and giving us this opportunity to get some insights from you, because you're working with a great team and you guys are going to create great products that we're going to see and use. And I'm looking forward to all of that comes out once you deploy it. So thank you so much for making the time, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you, Asif. Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. AyAyAyAI is out.
AyAyAyAI.